This guy who runs his own copy shop, here's how it all started. One day, a man walks in wanting to make a photocopy of a piece of paper. But that paper wasn't just any ordinary paper, it was worth millions. And the copy shop owner never in his life imagined that one day he'd be photocopying a treasure map, an old document that was over 100 years old, containing all the information about a massive treasure full of gold and precious stones, worth millions. And that's exactly where this crazy story begins. Naturally, it's a true story. And by the way, I want to thank this man for sharing it with us. Before we start, I want to thank everyone who leaves likes, comments, shares the episode, does anything nice. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Nothing left to say except in the name of God. Let's begin our story. My name is Hamza. When this story I'm about to tell you today happened to me, I was 31 years old, still single, not married yet. I'm not going to tell you about my childhood, my family, my education, none of that matters. And there's no point going over it. Let's dive straight into the story. So it starts on a day I was working like normal, minding my own business. Just so you know my job, I own a little shop. Thank God. God blessed me with something decent, a shop with all kinds of school supplies for kids. Notebooks, magazines, journals, even an old computer for people to use. And if someone wanted to do research or needed something, I'd help them do the research they needed. Though honestly, nowadays research requests have dropped a lot with ChatGPT and AI. It's way easier now. You just click and the whole research comes out clean. So even teachers don't ask for as many research assignments as they used to back in the day. Anyway, in that shop I had a photocopy machine. The thing was basically my bread and butter too. God knows. You all know how it is. That machine was simple, nothing fancy, but it's exactly what set off this whole story of mine. At the shop, I had a girl working with me, alternating shifts. Her name was Hanan. She used to help me out, and we'd split the days. Sometimes she'd take mornings, I'd take evenings, and vice versa. But my story starts specifically on a day Hanan wasn't there, and I had to open the shop in the morning and stay there alone all day until evening. And obviously I'd be the one closing up that night too. That day I was working normally, minding my business, when a man walked in, a bit older, maybe 55 to 60 years old. He was wearing a plain, simple suit, you know, the kind that just looks ordinary, and on top of that he had a cap on. From his look, you could tell he was from the countryside, both in appearance and in the pickup truck he arrived in, which was covered in dust. He parked his pickup in front of me, got out of the truck, walked in and said,
Salaam.
I said,
Salam. Welcome, sir. How can I help?
He pulled a small pouch out of his pocket and opened it in front of me. Inside was a piece of paper that looked really old, made of that thick, worn-out, ancient-looking paper. He pulled this thing out and I was just staring like, what is this he's brought me? He opened it and said,
I want 4 photocopies of this, please.
Naturally, I took it and said,
Sure. No problem.
Though I could see right away this thing looked old and it would be tough, really tough to print clearly. I told him,
Sir, it looks really old. It's going to be hard to copy.
He replied,
It'll work out. Just try your best with it. God bless you.
So I took the paper and looked at it. I found lines and symbols on it, like some kind of map of something. It felt like it had a puzzle in it, meant to point you towards some location. I thought to myself,
Interesting.
And got curious again. Anyway, I put it in the machine. Tried the first copy, it didn't come out clear, it was faded. I tried again, adjusted it, worked on it until it finally came out clean. I made him the 4 copies he wanted and handed him the papers. I said,
How much do I owe you?
He said,
You've got 40 dirhams.
He pulled out a 20 dirham note and put it on the counter and said,
Keep the change.
I thought to myself,
What's going on here?
I said,
Why, sir, here's your exact change.
He said,
No, it's just a little something from me. That's it.
I said,
All right then. Thank you very much.
Since I'm honestly a curious guy, I thought I'd ask him. I said,
Sir, forgive me for asking, But what is this paper? If you don't mind me asking, sorry, but it looked kind of strange to me.
He said.
No worries at all, my son. I'll tell you what it is, just keep it between us.
I said.
Of course, sir. Of course.
He said.
Son, this is a map to a treasure.
I said.
A map? What do you mean?
He said.
Yeah, a treasure map. It's over 100 years old. When it landed in my hands, I consulted some people who specialize in this kind of thing, treasure hunting, and they told me they could help me find where this treasure is buried, based on what's on the map. They told me to bring it so they could take a look.
I said.
Before I hand it over and leave it with them, let me make photocopies first, so I keep the copies for myself.
He answered while I was laughing, saying, Ew.
You really think this could be real, my friend?
He said.
What can I tell you, son? It's all about fate. You're stuck here all day working for a couple dirhams here and there. But whoever knows about these treasures and this kind of thing, he strikes it big, and retires early, and lives comfortably with his family.
Honestly, that last line hit me hard, because it was true, and it stung a bit, but he had a point. This world isn't fair. I always used to tell myself, two people can be doing the exact same effort, putting in the same work, and one ends up rich and the other doesn't. It's just fate, I guess. But the real issue was, this man standing in front of me, where did he even come from? How did he stumble onto a treasure this big? I got lost in thought while he kept talking, and he interrupted me and said, By the way, my name is Booker. I'm from such and such village. I've got a farm, livestock, cattle. Save my number, and if you ever need a sheep or a lamb for Eid or anything, just call me and we'll work something out. I said, Nice to meet you, Mr. Bakker. Thank you so much. He gave me his number and I saved it. Then Bakker left the shop, got in his truck, and drove off. I just stood there behind the counter, replaying the whole thing in my head, thinking, is this really going to be my whole life right here? Is this really all life has for me? I started asking myself questions, going deeper and deeper, and the answer kept coming back the same. I needed to find some kind of solution for myself. Any solution, some way out that would let me get ahead financially, faster and easier, because life just keeps flying by, and opportunities keep slipping away and disappearing, and a person needs to get moving. Anyway, that day passed, and the next day I saw Hanan and opened the shop as usual in the morning. All that motivation and excitement from the day before about getting into this treasure thing, it just faded away. I went back to work like normal, and the day passed like any other. The day after that, too normal. I actually started forgetting about the whole Bakker thing and the treasure map business. I forgot all about it until about 16 days after Bakker had come to see me. I was sitting at the shop, minding my business, on my phone, scrolling through YouTube, when a video popped up with over 1 million views. It was made by someone who specializes in treasure hunting, and in the video he was following a treasure map step by step, went to the exact spot marked on the map, found the location, and pulled out old artifacts. When I finished watching the whole video and scrolled through the comments, everyone was praising him, congratulating him. I didn't see a single person doubting it, saying it was fake or staged or acted. Everyone seemed convinced, and what really struck me from the comments was that everyone believed this was real, that it actually happened, because in the video, he clearly pulls out clay jars from inside a rock crevice. No way that's staged, and those jars were full of gold. Amazing. Tuesday witness. That's when the itch came back. I thought, why don't I ask that guy Bakker who came to my shop? He'd know more than me about this stuff. Let me ask him and see if maybe, just maybe, something came of that copy I made. It took some courage. I had to psych myself up a bit, but I said, alright, let me just call him. I called him that evening. It rang and rang, no answer. I figured maybe he was busy with something. You never know people's situations. About 15 minutes later, he called me back. Hello, Salam. Is this Mr. Bakker? Who's this? It's the owner of the shop where you made those photocopies. Honestly, between you and me, at that moment, I didn't know what to say. It caught me off guard. He said, "Oh yeah, how are you? All good?" I said, "All good, thank God. I just saw a video about treasure hunting and it reminded me of you, Mr. Bobker." He went quiet for a second, then asked, Wait, what's your name again?" I said, "Amini." He said, "Ah yes, Mr. Amini. Welcome. Actually, I'm coming down to the city tomorrow. Let's grab a coffee." I said, "Sure. I'd love that." So the next day we met at the cafe. We sat down, greeted each other, felt like old friends already. Through that conversation, I got the sense this was a genuine, simple man from the countryside. You could feel that pure, good-hearted nature that country folks have. I saw how a small interaction like a photocopy job could turn into something like a friendship. Him inviting me for coffee like that, he was clearly a kind person. We sat, talked, caught up on things. He told me what he does for a living: sells sheep, cattle, has farmland. The man was doing well, missing nothing. This whole treasure business, like you said, was just extra on top, icing on the cake, that's it. But this time, sitting with him at the cafe, I noticed something. He seemed a bit down, missing that same excitement he had the first time he came to get his photocopy made. And since I'm someone who pays close attention to details, that was my first observation. Anyway, after we caught up a bit, I asked him, "So, Mr. Bobker, where did things end up with that map?" He sighed and said, "What can I tell you, son? It's a whole story with those so-called experts I gave the map to. They asked for 4 days to do their rituals, study it properly, and locate the jinn guarding the treasure. You know how it goes." I said, "Okay, God make it easy." Anyway, they kept the map. The copy I'd made was with me. And he continued, 4 days pass exactly, and I go to check on the dig site. I start calling them, no answer. I go to the spot where the treasure was supposed to be, and I find a hole already dug. Someone had beaten us to it. Imagine that they pulled the treasure straight out of the ruins of an abandoned house's courtyard. How they did it, how nobody saw them, how not even a jinn touched them, God only knows. I leave that to him. When I got there, I found some village kids talking about it, saying that in the morning, they found this hole dug inside the abandoned house, and someone had come and dug it out and taken whatever was there. I remember I kept repeating, God is great, God is great. And I asked him, "And weren't you angry at them? Face to face, angry at what they did to you? Did you take their pictures, their license plates, anything?" Bobker answered me completely calmly, "What can I say, son? Let them go. Let them leave me be. Let them have it. They found me clean. They didn't find me digging. They just took off, my son, Amini. That's it." I said, "But that's money, Bobker. That's real money that walked away, and you're the owner of the map, the treasure." He just said, it's fine, son." Honestly, his calm reaction there planted a seed of doubt in me. I thought, did any of this even actually happen? Or is he just coming to tell me about it out of nowhere? Like, did all this really happen? Or is it just something in his head? Maybe something else happened, and he's just telling me the opposite. Maybe he's the one who actually pulled it out, took the treasure, and just wants to throw people off so nobody chases after him, and he can stay under the radar quietly with his fortune. Honestly, a lot of questions were spinning in my head. And just so those of you who might be thinking Bobber is a scammer, trying to con me that this is all just a setup, I want you to relax. This guy is not a con artist. He's not here to scam me. Bobker is exactly how I've described him. Exactly how he acted, just so you know he's not a scammer. So you can stay relaxed and follow along. Anyway, I thought about asking him for a bit more info, more detail. And I asked him carefully, "No worries, sir. What's lost is lost. It's on them. They're the ones who did wrong here, not you. You're clean. May God make up for it. But honestly, Mr. Bobker, I won't lie to you. This thing keeps nagging at me. It's stuck in my head." He looked at me and said, You said it right, son. What's lost is lost. Thank God there's more where that came from. Thank God there's plenty more. That's exactly what I wanted to know, I asked. How so, Mr. Bakker? He said. I told you he was a good man. God rest his soul. May his grave be filled with light. Honestly, my intentions were never bad. I never meant to betray anyone or anything like that. I was just curious to learn more about this world. Wanted to gather more information. Even these questions I was asking weren't coming from a bad place. My intentions toward him were genuine, and his intentions toward me were genuine, too. They always say whoever has good intentions comes out ahead. Thank God we both had good intentions between us, but whether we'd actually come out ahead or not, that's something you'll find out as the story goes on. Anyway, moving forward step by step, when he said, "What's lost is lost. There's more where that came from," I asked, "How's that, Mr. Bakker?" He answered, "I've still got 2 more maps, bigger than the one they took. That one was actually the smallest of them." I said, "Wow, may peace be upon the Prophet. Mr. Bakker, is this really true, what you're telling me?" He laughed and said, "Are we kids playing games here, my son? You think we're little kids?" I laughed with him and said, I get it now. Where did you find these maps, Mr. Bakker? How'd you come across them?" He laughed and said, "Now you're getting into this stuff. Where did the maps come from? I like this whole treasure and lost fortune world, and how they follow these maps to pull out the treasure. I won't lie, I like it, and I want to see how to get into it. And you're now allowing me, Bakker, to ask, where did you find these maps? These treasure maps?" He answered, "This is exactly what you want to know. You'll never hear this from me. These maps just fell into my hands. That's it. You won't know how I got them. I won't tell you, honestly." I laughed at his bluntness, how direct and straightforward he was, and I said, "It's up to you, Mr. Bakker. I was just asking. Sorry about that. Honestly, between us, I like that kind of person. No lies, no games. Straight to the point with you." He could have easily lied to me, said he found it somewhere, or his grandfather gave it to him. But he chose not to lie, and that kept our relationship genuine. He said, "No, I won't tell you, that's it." And the conversation moved on, but our coffee wasn't finished yet. We kept talking. He said, "I can see you're really curious, digging into this. You like this field, huh?" I said, "Honestly, I won't lie to you. I do like it." I said, "Why not get into it myself?" He looked at me and said, "That's some real ambition you've got. Seriously impressive. What can I tell you? You've won me over. And honestly, I couldn't ask for someone better than you. You're educated, and you'll help me a lot. We'll work together, God willing." I said, "All right, deal." He gave me his hand, and we shook on it. And that, folks, is where my journey into this world, which I'm going to tell you is strange, dangerous, all of it truly began. The next day, we met up and planned everything out, the whole strategy of how we work together. He said, "Look, Amine, you know how it is. These so-called experts keep coming to me with their tricks and scams. From now on, you're in charge of dealing with them, talking to them, understanding what they're really saying. And you're educated. I'm not worried about you. As for me, I'll handle the money side. Anything related to funding, I've got you covered. Don't worry about money. I'll take care of everything." I said, "All right, deal. I'm here for it." So from there, Bakker went to get the second map he had, and I started digging, this time into the experts and the whole world of treasure hunting. I started researching on Google, in Facebook groups, on YouTube. I didn't leave a single stone unturned, and that's exactly how I came across Amine Nikiti's channel, telling stories about treasures and lost fortunes. I watched them, and hey, you guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. I need it. Ha! Anyway, I kept digging, and at the same time I stayed in touch with Bakker. We were meeting up almost daily. Poor Hanan ended up covering the shop basically by herself, working long hours, while I became consumed, obsessed with this treasure world. One lead pulling me to the next, and another lead pulling me somewhere else. I started meeting people, connections here and there, until I ended up at a woman known as the seer. Some people pointed me to her. This woman was a fortune teller type figure, apparently well known and respected, based in an old part of the city. I went there, found her shop, walked in, showed her the copy of the map and the whole treasure story, told her everything. She said, "Look, son, between me and this thing, there's years of experience, and I can direct you to a place where they'll give you what you need and explain everything to you." I said, "Please, ma'am, tell me." Then she paused and said, "But listen, my son, between me and you and God, I'm not responsible for what happens to you. If this treasure has no good in it, but if it does have good in it, that's your fate. May God make it easy for you." I answered, "God willing, there's good in it. God willing, you're well, ma'am." She said, No, my son, whatever you find, if your intentions weren't sincere to begin with, just take it and give charity for the sake of God, and God will help you, my son." I said, "All right. Thank you, ma'am." She then directed me to a village. I won't say the name, but it was in the southern part of Morocco, really far away. She said, "When you get there, ask for a man they call the hearer. He's the only one who can help you, the only one with real spiritual insight, and he knows about these things." At that moment, I tried to offer her some money, but she absolutely refused to take anything from me. I told Bakr everything the woman had said, and that we needed to go to this specific village and find this man called the hearer. Babka said, "All right, let's go, the two of us." There was a considerable distance to travel, so we drove together. I let Hanan know I'd be away for a while and asked her to hold down the shop, and I tried to prepare things as best I could. So we hit the road, me and Babka, and made it to the outskirts of that region. We spent the night at a hotel near the city, and the next day we headed up to the village. It was around December, freezing cold, real winter weather. I remember this image clearly, me and Babka climbing up that mountain toward the village, and at one point I stopped, looked around, and thought, "Look at you now, Amine. Look where you are. Look where you ended up. Look how far this treasure world has taken you." I thought, I haven't even lived a quarter of this new world I'm stepping into, and I was still just at the very beginning of it, if I'm being honest. Anyway, we climbed up that mountain until we reached the village. We asked around for the hearer, but the people we asked mostly didn't speak Arabic well. They spoke a Mazi Berber there. Eventually, one man who understood a bit of Daraya pointed us to where the hearer lived. We walked over, and eventually found ourselves in front of a hut built entirely out of mud and clay, with smoke rising from it. That was the home of the hearer. Bakr looked at me and said, "I mean, my son, from what I can see, this guy doesn't look like much, doesn't seem wealthy. No presents, no farm, nothing. This little hut looks like poverty itself." I told him, "You don't know what's inside, Bakr. Don't disrespect the man." Anyway, we stood at the door and said, "Salam alaikum." Peace, and out came a man who looked to be in his 80s, maybe 84, 85 years old. I'm not exaggerating. Neither me nor Bakr expected someone that age to be living out here. He came out like someone who hadn't seen daylight in ages. He covered his eyes, couldn't handle the light. He had a musty smell to him, and his face was covered in white stubble. He said, "Wa alaikum salam." I asked him, "Are you the hearer?" He said, "What did they say?" I said, "Nothing, just that a fortune teller sent us to you. We came from far away, and we have something to ask you, me and this man with me." The hearer glanced over, looked at Bakr, and said, "All right then, come in, welcome." We went inside, and while that hut looked plain and humble from outside, built purely of mud and clay, the inside was packed with strange things: books, leather-bound scrolls, bones, containers with red and white liquids, colored candles. On the side of the hut was a mattress laid out, clearly where the hearer slept. Anyway, since Bakr had put me in charge of talking, I said, "We have a map, but we haven't done any research on it. We don't know what's in it, and we'd like your help." The hearer said, Give it to me, let's see. I looked over at Booker, and he handed it over. I didn't hand it myself. The hearer started feeling the paper, examining the writing on it. After studying it carefully, he said, "This is rare. Most maps you find these days are from the past 100 years or less, but this one looks much older." We asked, "So what do we do now?" He said, "Leave it with me. Tonight, I'll do a reading on it, figure out what's on it, and whether it's guarded or not. And tomorrow I'll tell you what's what. But tomorrow, bring me a crate of dates. That'll be my payment." Bobka jumped in and said, "Is that it? Just dates?" "Of course, sir. We'll bring you whatever you need." We left his place and Bobka asked me, "What do you think of this guy?" I said, "Honestly, Bobka, I brought you to a real spiritual healer here. You can tell just from how he looks and everything we saw. This is the real deal. From what we saw when I went in, all I saw was his humble sleeping mat. How he lives, it seems like he's not someone who fakes it or plays games. Let's give him a chance. And thank God we're past those so-called experts who scammed you." Bobka said, "What can I say? God willing, it's good. God willing, tomorrow brings good news." That night we stayed at a hotel in the nearby city. The next morning we woke up around 7 and headed back up to the village, straight to the hearer's place. Before that, though, I forgot to mention, on the way we stopped at a market and bought 2 crates of dates for the hearer. While we were driving up toward the mountain, we came across a man in the road whose cart had flipped over, and the mule pulling it had collapsed, exhausted, lying on the ground, and the man couldn't get it back up no matter how hard he tried. We stopped the car and got out to help him, me and Bobker. I asked him, "Are you okay? What happened?" He said, "This mule's been giving me trouble, hasn't eaten or drunk anything in 2 days, and it's just collapsed. Exhausted." I said, "Well, look at all this greenery around. This mountain's full of good grazing. Why not let it graze?" He said, "Leave that stubborn mule be, sir." Anyway, we helped him gather his stuff off the ground and got the cart back upright with some effort. He then said, "You two look like you're heading to see that man, the hearer, right? Looks like you're going to see him." I said, "Yeah, how'd you know? Tell me, what do people around here say about him?" He said, "If that man tells you something, just do exactly as he says. He's helped the whole village and everyone who visits him. Nobody leaves his place without getting what they need. That man is truly blessed. That's what people around here say." I said, "May God bless you for telling me. If it works out for us, sir, I'll come find you and shake your hand and tell you your words were right on the money." He said, "God help you both. God help you both." As for that poor mule, it seemed like it still didn't want to get up. We left it there, and Bobker, on the way, said something like, "This is a bad omen, Amine, my son. Bad omen." I said, "Come on, Bobker, don't do the superstition thing to us. That mule falling over doesn't mean anything. Let's just keep moving." We finally made it back to the hearer's place. When we walked in, he said, come in, sit, welcome." Once we sat down, he said, "I stayed up all night with this document. Listen carefully, this could be a blessing, or it could be a curse. The jinn guarding it guards it as an inheritance, and every 30 years the guardianship passes to another. But the treasure is definitely there. You two need to come to terms with this jinn. See if it lets you actually take it. It might look easy, but between success and disaster, there's just a thin line. The treasure is located at such and such spot exactly. Find yourselves a skilled, competent spiritual practitioner who can handle whatever guards it, and after that, trust in God, and God help you." Honestly, this news was really discouraging for both me and Bobker, because Bobker had no experience in this at all. And even though I was trying to gather information from YouTube, from groups, asking people how it is, even I was still fairly inexperienced. This whole thing we were dealing with was a bit tough. I asked him, "Who is this practitioner you're recommending? Who can help us get this done?" He said, "What can I tell you? Go see the giver. He's the one who can help you. He's close by. Ask for the village of such and such and tell them we sent you from the hearer. Go to him. Tell him what's going on. Give him the map and everything else, and he'll take care of the rest. I said, all right. Thank you. God bless your parents. We gave him the crates of dates we'd bought, and he seemed thrilled. God protect him. He seemed genuinely delighted with the dates. We left his place, and as we were heading down, I noticed, this is going to sound crazy, I saw what looked like a moon in broad daylight. How does that even make sense, a moon during the day? It was actually a girl, a young woman standing there, shooing chickens back into their coop. That image, I swear, I've never forgotten it. I've never seen beauty like that in my life, and I've never forgotten that girl. I thought, this moment right here is going to matter later, and I'll come back to it. I was so distracted that Booker was talking to me the whole time, and I wasn't even hearing a word he said, just staring, completely lost in this girl. Anyway, we left there and headed to the village the hearer had directed us to, asking for this man called the Giver. We found him. Turned out he was the imam of the local mosque, and he had just finished leading the noon prayer when we found him. When I approached him, I said, Salam, are you Mr. Giver? How are you doing? He said, God bless you, my son. I said, who's with you? I told him, look, I'm the owner of this car, pointing at Booker. We were sent by the hearer. We need your help with something. He immediately said, shh, quiet, quiet, come to my house. I'll go ahead. I'll leave the door unlocked. Come in. It seemed like he was uncomfortable being seen dealing with this in public, like people around him didn't know he was involved in this treasure business. We followed him, and he left the door open for us. Once we sat down, he asked, what's going on? We showed him the copy and explained everything. He said, the hearer already looked into it and said this one, God willing, we can pull it out, and the guardians won't be able to withstand the ritual I'll put in place. But as for the split of what we find, honestly, we hadn't even thought about this part beforehand, so I had to think fast and answer him quickly. I said, you get 30, split between you and the diggers you bring, and we keep the rest since we're the owners of the map. Booker jumped in and said, we won't need any incense or anything, right? The Giver said, 30, that's fine. And no, forget about the incense and all that. Just leave that stuff to me. Forget about it. So when do we do this, God willing? So we finalized the plan, discussed all the details. A week later, we met up again, hit the road toward the location marked on the map around 11 at night. The Giver was strict and precise about it, telling us bluntly, this needs to be extracted before dawn, we need to hurry before sunrise, and I've got it handled. Just stay calm. He brought along 2 helpers, jinn summoners or spirit assistants, whatever you want to call them, capable people to help with digging. We drove until we reached the exact spot, which happened to be in the middle of nowhere. I'm telling you, that wasteland had absolutely nothing there. No houses, nothing but empty desert. We got out, walked around, pacing back and forth, while the Giver was counting his steps, murmuring things, holding the map in his hand. We kept going from one point to another until he finally stopped at a specific spot and said, right here. This is exactly the spot. He called over his 2 helpers and told them, dig right here, exactly here, and do what I told you. I looked at Booker, and he just nodded like, God willing, good things. The diggers came, pulled out their equipment, went to the marked spot, and started digging. Meanwhile, the Giver sat down, opened his book, and began reciting something. I couldn't understand a word of it. Every so often he'd pull something out of his pocket and sprinkle it on the ground, continuing to recite with his eyes closed. At that point, I honestly couldn't stop myself from glancing over at Booker. I found him trembling, shaking uncontrollably, alone with his thoughts. He looked terrified, like he clearly didn't have experience with any of this, didn't know what to do with himself. He was completely shaken, and I was standing right beside him. The Giver kept working, until at one point he said, stop the digging. The diggers stopped. And that's when the giver started circling the hole, saying, "I come to you with prayer beads in my hand. I am a man of the sacred law, and I command you to withdraw, withdraw, withdraw." And imagine this, right after he said that, we saw worms crawling up out of the ground. How is that even possible? Worms coming out of the earth like that? There was this indescribable dread, a chilling fear like nothing I've ever felt, right up until the moment the giver told the diggers to resume, to keep digging, keep going. They went back to it, started digging again. Watch closely, and this is exactly when things went wrong. However it happened, God only knows. The last thing I remember is my eyes closing, a wave of dizziness hitting me, and I collapsed. I have no idea what happened after that. When I came to, I found myself lying on the ground, and around me nothing. No Bobker, no giver, no digger, absolutely no one around. The only thing I was somewhat aware of was some kind of strange creature emerging from the hole, carrying something and handing it off to another shadowy figure. Its voice was terrifying. Its shape was terrifying. Genuinely horrifying. That's all I can remember from that moment. When I fully woke up, I found the ground next to me completely undisturbed, like it had never been dug, nothing there, and not a single person nearby. Out of sheer fear and shock, I ran until I found the main road, trying to get back. I walked for what felt like an entire day from one point to another, until I finally reached a bus station. I kept calling Bobker, calling nothing. No answer. His phone was off. I made it back to my city the next day, completely and utterly exhausted, drained. What happened? What really occurred? That's exactly why I've told you all this, because I couldn't say for certain if any of it truly happened, or if I'd just been dreaming the whole time. But listen carefully. Listen closely to what comes next. 2 days later, Bobker called me. When we finally met up, I noticed he had something like a bruise near his ear. When we talked, neither of us could really make sense of what had happened out there. He told me that when he woke up, he found himself far from the hole we were supposed to dig, and he said he felt like he'd been struck by some kind of hand near his ear, something he'd never experienced before. This holy jinn slapperdein, itao photocopy phenomenon. That's apparently what happened to him too. He'd genuinely been struck by a jinn. That's why he too had collapsed and couldn't get up, and had to drag himself back to find his car. He was there before me. He said, "I saw you passed out, but I couldn't come to you. I was too scared. I was in shock." As for the giver and the diggers, God only knows what became of them. No trace of them at all. As for me, Bobker said, "What can I say? This whole thing seems off to me. This is a crooked path." But deep down, this experience didn't change anything for me. I still had the patience and drive to keep going. But Bobker, on the other hand, had heard stories he'd heard about people going through experiences like this before, failing over and over, and that discouraged him. But for me, I still had the energy and motivation. I tried to convince him, told him, "It's fine, this stuff happens. Do you have any other maps? We could work with those, and just forget this one happened like it never occurred." But Bobker looked at me and touched his ear and said, "Listen carefully, Amir, my son. I've got my work, my livestock, my land. I'm not lacking anything. This whole thing, honestly, wasn't meant for me. It doesn't suit me. I couldn't even find the words to explain it to my wife. God only knows what happened to the giver and the diggers, and that's between them and God. As for me, from now on, this is the last time I'll be seeing you." And that, honestly, was the last time I ever saw Bobker, the man who cut ties with me completely after that incident. Even I turned inward after that. But the obsession had already taken hold of me, as they say. Poor Hanan was left covering the shop by herself, and I became completely lost, consumed by this world of treasures and lost fortunes. Wherever I heard someone had a map, I'd chase it down, hoping to find one and pull out a treasure someday. I kept going from one lead to another, tried everything. I even became middleman. In this treasure world, going from a copy shop owner to a broker for treasure seekers. I became the guy who connects map owners with spiritual practitioners and diggers and fortune tellers, the one who ties everything together. Throughout this whole experience, only once did it actually pay off. And I wasn't even present for that one. A guy had inherited his grandfather's house and found some old documents, maps, things like that, and was trying to sell them on Facebook in some group. I messaged him, told him those are treasure maps, and connected him with people who specialize in this. Honestly, I wasn't personally involved much in that one, but a few months later, he called me and gave me a nice cut, made up for a lot of what I'd lost. That was the one and only time it actually worked out, and I won't go into all the details, but that one was the exception. 2 years went by like this, deep in this treasure hunting life, until one day I don't even know what came over me. I decided to go back and visit the village where the hero lived. I went, honestly not even sure why I was drawn back there. By then I'd bought a car and was getting around on my own. When I got there, I found myself not even thinking about the hero or any of that. I was thinking about the girl I'd seen that day, walking down with Boker. I kept trying to remember the house I'd seen her at. I kept at it until I found the house like it was written for me. I actually went and proposed to that woman, and thank God, things worked out. We got engaged and eventually married. At that point, things settled down for me, and I finally cleared my head of that whole world. But whenever I think back on everything, I feel like it all happened just so we could meet and end up married. As for now, I'm still running my shop, and I never saw Boker again since the day he cut ties with me. Hanan, who used to work with me, is now pregnant with her husband. Please keep her in your prayers. She's got 2 months left. She's currently on leave from work. As for me, God blessed me with this wife who changed my whole life. And honestly, I did gain a little financially from that whole world, from that one deal, and became somewhat knowledgeable in it. Learned a lot of things about it. I don't want to go into too many more details because thank God I'm content now. And I'm living peacefully, in comfort. And that, everyone, was our story for today. See you in the next story. This has been your host, Hamza Arm. Bye for now.